Welcome back to Parent Talk. We are talking about healthy conversations, and specifically today, we're focused on reconciliation. We are so grateful to have Blake Coffey with us today, who is the executive director and co-founder of One Another Project Ministries. And we're so thankful, Blake, for your expertise to come and share your wisdom with us on this topic. But before we get into all of that, tell us a little bit about your family, about yourself, and maybe what's next in your family.
Thanks, Selma. I most of my understanding about parenting came from raising two girls. I'm a girl dad. Two girls now, 35 and 31, married. I've got four grandkids. Two boys, 16 and 14, and then I've got a 2-year-old granddaughter and a 6-month-old grandson for my younger daughter. And
congratulations.
so, yeah, grandparenting is
That's fun.
everything they ever said it would be and beyond. It's amazing.
That's great. That's great.
Can you tell us a little bit about even just how you got into what you're doing with relationships and reconciliation?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And it's really a big part of my testimony. You know, we're all taught to share our testimonies in terms of there was a time in my life when, but then Jesus. And honestly, I am a severe introvert, and there was absolutely a time in my life when I knew absolutely nothing nor cared anything about relationships. My wife, I dated from the time we were 15 years old. And I was the worst boyfriend ever. I mean, she calls it romantically challenged. I would say I was relationally challenged. I mean, I really didn't understand much, but the more the Lord got a hold of me through my high school and college years, and then began a law practice, but even there, the Lord has just really began to transform me. And long story short, I get to go all over the world now teaching about relationships that I was so naturally bad at for so long. And so, my ministry and the work the Lord has given me really for the last 30 years has been helping ministry leaders and people who are involved in ministry understand how relationships work biblically, how to repair them when they're broken, how to drive them deeper to make them what they're supposed to be in our lives. So that's really what I do.
And you would never know that it wasn't something that comes natural to you because you have the just such great wisdom and insight when it comes to how do we navigate a specific relationship or an issue in a relationship. I mean, it's just like a no-brainer to you.
Well, if it's wisdom and insight, it is the Lord. And if I get anything right, it's only because I've gotten it wrong so many times early and learned from my mistakes. So.
Haven't we all?
Yeah.
Well, yes. One of the things that I know I appreciate about you is you're such a great listener. And so tell us a little bit about then, in that listening, how do we encourage communication within the family and to get to these places of speaking about or talking through reconciliation when a lot of families aren't doing that?
Yeah, when a person uses the word communication, I think most people immediately go to getting a message out. And that's certainly a part of communication, but when you use the word communication with me, my heart and my mind start with with this idea of understanding. I don't have anything worthwhile to communicate unless and until I have some understanding of who it is I'm talking to and what question they're really asking. It's probably not even the question that they verbalized, but what are they really needing to know? What are they getting at? What's the interest behind that? And so to me, good communication starts there, starts with understanding and listening well. And again, maybe it's because I'm an introvert. I prefer to listen. I prefer to do that, but you learn a lot when you're not talking. So that's just where I come from.
Why do you, in your opinion, why is it hard for parents to listen?
Yeah, again, a lot of it has to do with because we have a responsibility to protect We have a responsibility to nurture and grow, and so a lot of that is speaking, right? A lot of that is speaking truth into our kids' lives. But again, if I don't understand where they're coming from, and if I don't convince them that I understand where they're coming from, and those are two very different things.
Yeah.
Look, we've all been teenagers, right?
Yeah.
So we all understand where they're coming from. But from a teenager's perspective, they don't think we get it. They don't
Yeah.
think we understand it
Right.
because they can't imagine that we were ever a teenager.
Yeah.
And so not only do I have to understand where they're coming from, but I have to be able to demonstrate that I get it. I'm with you. I'm for you. I know where this is coming from.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we just feel like we don't have the time to do that, or we don't have the bandwidth or the energy to do that. So we just go straight to, this is the rule, or this is what I want you to know.
Yeah.
And so, of course, sometimes there's a need for that kind of directness, but more times than not, I think knowing the heart and hearing the heart and connecting on that level is more important.
Yeah. As we've been recording all of these episodes, they're all based on how to have healthy conversations around certain topics, or just how to have healthy conversations in general. So when you think about, your daughter raising, your grandchildren, and you have just a hope and a prayer that they will raise in a family that is a communicative family. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but they
There's
know how to,
conversation.
they know how to communicate, and they know how to have conversation from the very beginning, because that really is the foundation that helps families protect their children. That's what keeping open conversation can help keep our children protected. But it also is just so important to have a healthy relationship. So just thinking of young families, where do you think that foundation can begin? How do they start to build healthy conversations when they're young?
Yeah, that's such a there's not an easy answer, I don't think, to that question, but certainly a mindset can help a great deal. And one of the mindsets, and I've racked my brain trying to remember who I heard this from first, or where I heard it first, and I honestly don't know, but it really stuck with me. The truth stuck with me. And someone made it clear to me early on with my kids that for our lifetime, assuming the Lord allows us to live a normal lifetime in terms of years, that the vast, vast, vast majority of my lifetime with my kids is going to be in an adult relationship. And we all, when we're raising our kids, when we're in our 30s and 40s and raising teenagers, we get so tired of hearing people say, it happens quickly. It's breathtaking how fast it happens. But before you know it, they'll be gone, and you're like, yeah. You get so tired of hearing that, and now that's all I think about with my girls is it really did happen quickly.
Yeah.
So a mindset that was very helpful for me is I began implementing early. I mean, when they were children, I began implementing into our relationships what I would call a grown-up way of connecting with one another. Ideas around reconciliation, ideas about learning to say, ouch, that hurt, ideas around learning to forgive and express forgiveness, ideas around what an apology looks like. I wanted them to see that modeled and to experience that in an adult relationship, even as children, so that when I do these kinds of conferences, I have a friend at my church who says, I think you should retitle that conference, How to Raise Your Kids So They'll Miss You When They Leave. And it's true. I mean, I think that if you begin putting these things into the relationships early, even while they're children, especially while they're teenagers, almost entering into kind of a long on-ramp into an adult relationship with them, then you're already there when you need to be. Otherwise, trying to flip the switch from a 17-year-old to an 18-year-old, or maybe we're more in today's culture, maybe it's more like a 22-year-old to a 23-year-old, I don't know. But trying to flip the switch from a teenager relationship to immediate adult relationship, it doesn't work that way. It really has to happen gradually over time. And so that mindset, it's a long answer to your question, that mindset of I want to begin now creating a healthy adult relationship with this child, that mindset helped me a great deal. Thinking in terms of how to handle brokenness in the relationship, how to handle apologies, those kinds of things. Seeing it modeled in me, letting them see it modeled in me, letting them see what an appropriate apology looks like, letting them see what extending forgiveness is all about. I think that's so important.
That sounds like there even needs to be some work in us as parents too.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
I mean, we're the grown-ups, and so we're the ones who are supposed to have figured this stuff out first. I'm not a fan of modeling something for our kids that we don't really do. It's not really who we are. And kids are amazing at seeing through that and realizing when it's not authentic. So there's no way around, for Christian families, there's no way around the idea that everything bubbles up out of our spiritual walk. Everything bubbles up out of that, including how we handle relationships with one another. So it is on me as a parent to be working on that and getting that, and let them see me working on that. Not let them see that I've arrived. But rather let them see that I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to work out my salvation with fear and trembling. I'm trying to not be conformed to the ways of this world. I'm trying to allow the Spirit to change me and transform me more and more every day. I'm working on it. Let them see that, I think.
That vulnerability.
How do we, in understanding, these places of reconciliation, then even for parents, how do we encourage parents to see the importance of asking for forgiveness to their children, that helps their children know that they too make mistakes? We're not perfect. But just this morning I was talking to one of the girls who's here getting ready for a class, and she was telling me about a friend his dad cannot find that place of asking his son for forgiveness. Or even saying, I'm so sorry for how this all turned out.
Pride does make that hard. And, one of the things I think that our culture, our world presses on all of us is how we engage power. What we do with power. And there are so many messages being slammed into us by the world that says that power is something to be embraced and engaged and used for good, right? A superpower, but use it for good. The problem with that, though, is that we all as human beings struggle to really define what is good. And so when I talk about relationships and not being conformed to the ways of the world, one of the things that's wrapped up in that is not doing relationships from a place of power, from a place of relational power or social power, and not using it in that way. I can apologize to you, and because I teach this stuff, I can do it really, really well. But if what's in my heart when I do it is I'm manipulating you, I'm controlling you, I'm trying to coerce you into being a person that I want you to be. If that's what's behind my apology, then the words may sound right, but if that's what's behind it, then I'm not practicing relationships the way God teaches us to do it. And so that's why I think it really does have to come, as parents, it really does have to come from a place of being led by the Spirit rightly. The Spirit doesn't necessarily control my words and my actions, but the Spirit controls my heart. And if the heart's in the wrong place, then it doesn't really matter if I'm able to choose the right words. I'm not really modeling what needs to be modeled here. And so I just think that ongoing, sorry for the church word, sanctification spiritual transformation process, that's got to be happening in me. And that's where real reconciliation has to be coming from, I think.
Yeah.
I can teach all day long the practical side of how to apologize, how to make a good apology, and how to listen actively, active listening skills. And there's a lot of practical side to all of that, and that's all good. But if it's not coming from a heart that Jesus is shaping, then I don't know that it's accomplishing what it's supposed to be accomplishing.
Okay, so I know that there are probably parents listening that maybe they have thought about times where their kids have apologized to them, and it's but there's an underlying reason why maybe their preschooler, or maybe not preschool, elementary school age child or teenager or older has apologized, and it's in order to maybe not
To
really
get something.
apologize, but to get something. So how in that area of reconciliation, how do you teach to the heart of the child?
Genuineness.
Yeah, because in the moment it might be, oh, thank you for apologizing, and then an hour later you realize, oh, I was just asked for a brand new pair of shoes. So here we are. Now I know what was going on.
Yeah.
It's asking for forgiveness, but not seeing fruit of repentance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to me the linchpin to reconciliation, any reconciliation, the linchpin, the thing that is supposed to be happening is when the person who did the hurting, when that person is able to see and understand the depths of the pain that they've caused. When they're able to understand that and then somehow articulate that, somehow demonstrate to the other person, I get it, then it's not so much about the words as it is about that happening. Because once that happened, back to our conversation about power, there is a transfer of power from the person who did the hurting to the person who got hurt.
Yeah.
And once that transfer of power happens and that person who got hurt has the opportunity to express forgiveness or not, it doesn't even matter what they say or whether they express forgiveness. The point is that power has been transferred and reconciliation has taken place. So what's key for kids, I think, to learn is it's not just about saying I'm sorry. That's how it was in my house growing up.
Yeah.
My mom would pull me by the ear over and tell me, tell your sister you're sorry, and I would say I'm sorry, and that accomplished nothing.
Right.
No, what you want to find a way to do is to help them truly understand the pain that they caused. The pain that happened as a result. Even if they had good intentions, even if they weren't trying to cause pain, we need to know when our well-intentioned conduct lands on someone in such a way that causes pain. We want to know that.
Yeah.
We need to know that. And so
Yeah.
that's really what's happening in reconciliation.
Yeah.
It's less about saying the right words and more about coming to an understanding of what happened.
Yeah, and there's not a whole, there's still a lot of development that needs to happen in that
Absolutely,
child's
for
brain. So I know that you have 5 healthy conversations, and there is a, which this is very helpful, there is a process to this.
Yeah.
Can you break that down briefly for parents? And
Sure.
we'll point to where maybe they can find more resources on this, but can you just break that down? What that
Sure.
would, in the ideal world, in the family?
Yeah, the way we talk about it, thank you for that question. The way we talk about it is you get to identify the relationships in your life that are important to you and that you want to drive deeper, that you want to take and maybe it's a family relationship, a parental-child relationship, maybe it's a work relationship, maybe it's a neighbor, who knows. Any relationship that you identify in your life that you want to begin to drive that relationship deeper, then what we teach is there are 5 general conversations that should be ongoing in that relationship, right? All right, so we start at the surface, the shallowest level. This is the entry level to having a meaningful relationship with another person. The entry level is 2 different conversations that are around encouragement. How do we encourage one another? One of those conversations is talking about what's right. We call that affirmation. That's the fancy church word. It's just a pat on the back. It's learning to say, you're good at this. You did really well. This was a good thing that you just did. So that's talking about what's right. And then the other encouragement conversation, both of these again are at that shallowest level. The other encouragement conversation is a conversation around what could be. This is the fancy church word for that is exhortation. It's looking ahead at what could be and being a cheerleader, cheering this person along that path. And so those two conversations, and I don't want to get too bogged down in those two, but just as a person whose love language is affirmation, words of affirmation, that's my love language. I have to say, when you try to exhort without having done any affirming, then all I hear is criticism.
Right.
When you say to me, Blake, that podcast we did today was really good. If only you had done this, it would have been perfect. That doesn't land well on me unless you've done a really good job with the affirmation up front.
Right.
And so that's why we say there is an order to these. Get the affirmation, get the pat on the back conversations going and make it a regular part of your communication. Then you can add to that what could be. Then you can become that cheerleader. All right, that's those first two. Second, the third and fourth conversations, the second layer, is really conversations that are all about how to take a broken or damaged relationship and put it back on track to begin healing. And so one of those conversations is about my pain, and one of them is about your pain. How do I talk about my pain? How do I say, ouch, this hurt? Can we talk about this? How do I get this out on the table in a way that makes you lean in and want to talk about it rather than delivering it in a way that makes you run away. So talking about my pain is the third conversation. The fourth conversation is talking about your pain. I want to know about your pain so that I have an opportunity to apologize, so that I have an opportunity to set you up for forgiveness, because I understand that your forgiving me is not for my benefit, it's for your benefit. And I want to help you get there so that you can be free of this pain eventually. And so how can I apologize in a way? How can I understand your pain? So talking about your pain.
Real quick about that, can I interrupt you? So I've done something like this with you before. So and what I remember in this part of it is that was key for me was you said, ask how, like Michelle, I would say, how have I hurt you, Blake?
Yes.
That was key to, like, that was almost like I had to own it right away before I even heard how. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter whether I intended to hurt you or not. If you got hurt as a result of something I did or didn't do or said or didn't say, then I need to own that pain. I need to own that and be willing to lean in and flesh it out with you, talk about it, let you talk to me about it so that I can understand it. So the second layer of conversations, 3 and 4, are all about dealing with pain, resolving pain. We're not good at that, some of us. I certainly wasn't good at that growing up. The fifth conversation, the deepest conversation that we want to eventually get to having a regular rhythm in our relationship with one another, is just talking about where our hope is. And this is the faith conversation. This is the conversation where in my important relationships with unsaved or non-believers, this is where I get to share my faith. This is where I get to say, I get it. Hey, elections are important, but it's not what's most important to me. I'm not hanging my hope on this election. I hang my hope on something else. I'm not so interested, this is my opportunity to explain to a friend, I'm not so interested in passing laws to force people to do this. I would rather change hearts. I'd rather be a part of something that will change hearts. Can I tell you what that means to me? Can I tell you what I've found in my life that how actually changes people's hearts? This is that opportunity, but you don't get there. You don't create a safe place for those kinds of conversations unless you've done these other parts, these other conversations. And so there is an order to them, kind of going from shallower to deeper. And if I'm not doing the encouragement well, then my ability to heal a broken relationship is going to be hard. Not impossible, but a lot harder. And if I'm not learning to heal broken relationships, then how hard is it to talk about my faith and where my hope is, to risk that if I don't know how to to say I'm sorry, or if I don't know how to apologize. So anyway, that's how we talk about these 5 conversations, that you begin developing a rhythm for them, and they are particularly poignant. Scripture is particularly helpful in showing us these conversations in the parent-child relationship, in parenting. They're all over Scripture in parenting. There's just so many great examples of those.
That's good. So it's help me with this, encouragement and exhortation, right?
Affirmation and exhortation are all a part of encouragement.
Yes. Okay. And then it's the healing. How have I hurt you, or how
Your
have
pain
you hurt
and my
me?
pain. Yeah.
Yes. And then where's the hope?
Yeah. Where's my hope?
Yeah. Where is my hope?
Yeah.
So
Talking with each other about where our hope is.
Yeah, that's good. And some of those conversations can happen quickly, right? But
Sure.
some can take
lots of
a
time.
lot of time.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but they are conversations too. These are not just messages.
Yeah.
These are not drive-by shootings. This one of the examples I share when I do this conference is the dad who's getting his briefcase together in the morning and sees his son sitting down eating cereal for breakfast, and is walking out the door and says, "Hey, son, you were awesome in the game last night. You played a great game," and then leaves. Leaving the son sitting there wondering, why? What was good about it? Why did he think, why was Dad so proud of me? I can't ask any questions. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual knee-to-knee, face-to-face conversations where you're actually able to say, I love it when you do this. You're so good at this. You do really well with this. And then letting them say, why? Why, Dad? Why do you think it's good? And letting them look behind those words so that they know that they're not just shallow, empty words, that they really are coming from the heart. That's so important.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So for parents who may be watching this and thinking, conversation is just too hard. It just does not come easy to us, and it's too difficult, and feel like it's unhealthy, and I don't know how to get to a better, stronger place of health. What is the hope for them? How can we encourage them not to give up?
Giving up would be wrong. Giving up would, you can't. You don't get to give up. It's just not the way it works. It's kind of like saying changing diapers is too hard, so I'm not going to do it.
Right.
No, you do it because you have to do it. And so you have to figure it out. And so the whatever you have to do, again, this is coming from a guy who was the worst ever at it, really bad at it. I can't even tell you how embarrassed I am when I think back on my high school days dating my wife and what horrible boyfriend I was. But you just have to figure it out. And again, this goes back to those spiritual disciplines. I want to stay in my lane. I know other people are going to be talking about spiritual disciplines in the home, but this goes back to my personal walk with the Lord. And am I allowing that growth to then play itself out in my relationships with my kids? That's so critical. Again, I don't want to turn this into a Dale Carnegie people skills type deal where, well, just do this and this and this and say these things and do these things and everything's going to be okay. I wish it were that simple, but it's not. It's way more nuanced than that. And I don't have that kind of amazing practical advice. I say dive into Jesus. I mean, dive into Jesus and let him change your heart. Let him show you why these conversations become so important, these relationships are so important. I can't do it nearly as well as he can, and so I think that's where to start.
We've talked about this on previous episodes where we're not praying that, just change this specific thing in my child's life, but we pray what Paul said to the Ephesians that our kids would understand how deep God's love is for them, because that's what changes. And then when they understand that or get a glimpse of God's love for them, it changes the other things in their life automatically. And so it's like, if we as parents, we have to dig into God's love first, and then that's where these conversations can change. And even it's our heart changes. It just changes a lot of things if we are focused on loving and glorifying God first,
Exactly right.
right?
It's exactly right. And I know y'all have heard this statistic before, but the number one indicator in a person's life as to that dictates how they will deal with conflict in their life, the number one indicator in their life is how they saw conflict dealt with in their home
Right.
growing up.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so incumbent upon us as parents to make sure our kids are seeing it done well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm panicking
phenomenal.
inside a little bit right now. Like when you say that, I'm like thinking back on all the things that we've done wrong with our boys, or what they've seen, how Michael and I have handled conflict.
Well, and then let me give you this word of encouragement. Both my parents are no longer with us, but it was never done well in my home, in the home I grew up in. It was not done well. It was handled really poorly. Conflict was really handled poorly. And so I've spent most of my adult life determining not to be what I saw in the home that I grew up in. And so maybe that can be the case for all of us. I don't know, but we're not prisoners. We're not held prisoner by that.
Right.
But it is the leading indicator
It is,
in terms of how we're going to handle conflict.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and you've emphasized how important modeling is.
Yeah.
No matter what. I mean, if they see it, then the tendency for them to replicate that as they continue to grow
I think so.
is probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
How many times have we all caught ourselves doing and saying things that our parents used to do and say to us, and we always said, I will never do that. And then we've caught ourselves doing that. We can't help it. And so that's why it becomes so important to figure this out and model it well.
One more question. Can you apologize too much
Yeah.
to your kids?
Yeah, you can.
What does that mean? What does that look like?
This gets back to the motive. If I'm using an apology to get something out of them that I want, then that's not healthy.
Right.
And I know people like that. I know people who use affirmation that same way. I had a law partner early in my career who was just the most affirming guy in the world. I mean, every conversation he was like, Blake, you are so awesome. You're so amazing. I love this, blah, 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 blah. And at first, it really draws you in. And at first, you think, wow, I love being around him. But eventually, particularly when you see him doing it with everybody, you realize that's just how he talks. And he's learned that if he will be that way with people, everyone will like him, And so I think apologies can actually work that same way. Apologies can be manipulative. They can be used as a way of coercing behavior out of, behavior modification. They can be used for behavior modification. If that's what I'm doing, if that's how I'm using it, that's not healthy, and that's not a real apology. I'm not modeling it well. So I think they can be overdone.
I'm imagining one of my boys is he's pretty sharp and smart, and if I was to apologize too much, he might be like, "What is wrong with you? Why are you apologizing again?"
So here's the thing. Again, the point of an apology is not the I'm sorry. That's not really the point. We think it is, but it's not.
Right.
The point of an apology is that I'm demonstrating that I get it. I understand why you're hurting. I understand why you attribute that to me. I understand the role my conduct played in that. I get it. I want to hear about your pain, and I can describe and I can articulate all the facets of your pain, all the edges of it, all of the surfaces of it. I can talk about it because I understand it. That's an apology. That's what we're trying to get to.
Right. That's good. There's so much more to talk about when it comes to reconciliation with families. I wanted to ask you, how do we teach kids to reconcile with their friends? We didn't even get there. But can you tell us where can we find resources and more information where we can put it up on our mirror and remind ourselves this is how this is done? Tell us where to go.
Yeah. Our ministry is called One Another Project, and our website is oneanotherproject.com. It's all spelled out. And on that website, we've got tons of free resources, lots of free resources. We got a bookstore and books and things as well, but the particular resource that I think that we've been talking around that is an absolutely free video-based resource is called 5 Conversations for Healthy Relationships. And on our website, we break our website into, when you go to the first page, the question you're asked is, do you want to look inside the church or outside the church? Click on outside the church. Because that particular video-based free resource, it's a series of videos.
Awesome.
And it's really intended for small groups to go through together, but it's just there for anybody. And it's probably, I don't even know. I think we put videos together thinking that a small group would go through it weekly, and I think we probably have 30 or 40 weeks worth of videos on there around these conversations, around these 5 conversations. So that's where you can find that resource.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Selma, you and I have seen this in action in a professional environment, and we know that this works, but it doesn't just like work like a function.
Yeah.
It changes lives, and it changes relationships,
It does.
and it can be applied to any kind of relationship, literally any kind of relationship. So
Right, absolutely. What you have taught us in the past and what you've shared today has really been something that has ministered to us in the ministry that we've done with families, and we're very grateful for that, and grateful to have had you with us.
Well,
this
and
afternoon.
let me just piggyback on that and say it's messy work.
yeah.
Yes.
It's not clean work. It's not work that you're going to go and have a conversation and everything's going to be fine.
Right.
You're going to go and try to have a conversation and you're going to mess it up horribly because relationships are messy.
Yeah.
And so, it would be wrong to think of it as a formula,
Right.
as an easy way to
Right.
fix something.
Right.
It's messy work, but it's well worth it. It's so worth it,
It
in
is.
the end.
It
Yeah.
is.
It has been. And I think for us it has helped us keep accountable.
Yeah.
Even to
Oh,
one
yeah.
another.
Oh,
So
yeah.
thank you, Blake. We appreciate so much you sharing your wisdom with us and just the encouragement on the importance of reconciliation. And for our audience, thank you for joining us for episode 5. And I pray that your heart has been encouraged on understanding the importance and the value for reconciliation in your home.